Got that cowlick thing going on again because my hair is growing out. Hey Booktube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March. This is my bookish week for Saturday, January 29th. And as I've said before, I filmed this on Friday, so the big gigantic nor'easter blizzard hasn't hit yet. And I think I'm a little crooked here, but we might just have to go with it. So yeah, I'm still waiting for a bunch of snow. It could get anywhere from 12 inches to 2 feet, 2.5, who knows? But I have yet to go grocery shopping. I got to do that before the store is mobbed. I'm hoping if I go soon, it's 3 o'clock my time, that I will avoid the after work people, which I used to be, but I'm working from home. So, what did I read last week? I finished 3 books. I almost thought I was going to finish another one, but I was not able to do that. But 3 is plenty. So let me talk to you about what they were. And I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to talk about my least favorite to my most favorite. However, through the entire month of January so far, I think all of my books have been 4 stars from Goodreads. So they're on the 4-star rating, which is fantastic. However, I've not yet found that really great 5-star book. I'm still waiting. I don't think I'll find it in the 3. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I'm currently reading 3. I know that 2 of them are not going to be 5 stars, but 1 may. I don't know. So let me talk to you about what I read. I finished a book on audio, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doty. I have previously listened to a book by her, Will the Cat Eat My Eyeballs? And she is a former funeral director, and she started her career working in a crematory. And Will the Cat Eat My Eyeballs was a book in answer to children's questions about death and what happens, literally, if you die at home and your cat gets hungry, will the cat go for your eyeballs? So those types of things. And I thought it was charming and morbid at the same time and highly educational. So that was very entertaining. This one, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, you have to have a very strong constitution to listen to this whole book or to read it. It's pretty gruesome, but she doesn't hold anything back. She pulls no punches. She puts it all out there, exactly what her job entailed. Working in a crematory. And so she dealt with dead bodies. She dealt with families. She dealt with the mechanics of cremating people and what happens before that act or task and what happens after. She took part in helping families with viewings and with arrangements. She was a body retriever and a transporter. She picked up dead bodies from hospitals. She also talked a lot about what happens when children die and how her facility processed the deaths of children. It was pretty gruesome, and she gives you a little bit of her personal background as to why she got into this business. But she has an incredible website. She has a YouTube page, and I think it's Ask a Mortician or something like that. She narrates her books, so her voice is just mesmerizing and charming and animated. So as there are parts of the book that are fairly horrific if you're not prepared to learn the reality of cremation. There were certain points that were tough to listen to, but I so appreciated the book and I appreciated the knowledge that I gained, and it kind of reveals a lot of the things that we want to keep secret when it comes to death and what happens after our deaths. But it was fantastic, and I loved listening to it. My next favorite and another 4-star read is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. And this is Sylvia Plath's only novel. I buddy read this with Heidi from My Reading Life, And I think we were literally on the same page with every page that we read. This is the definition of autofiction. There is almost nothing fictional about this novel except for the names. She changed the names, and not even to protect the innocent. After having read Red Comet, this entire book is basically an autobiography with different names. And it was published in the UK in 1963, I think. It was only a month after the publication of this book did Sylvia Plath take her own life. So she may have written a novel because she needed to make some money. She was not really happy with this book. She felt that it was beneath her. But it blew me away how close to her life this book is. And oh, good gracious, this is a book that is often banned in high schools because of its content about mental illness, about suicide, about the experiences of young people, sexuality. But at the time this book was banned, one of the reasons that it was a scandal when it was published is it basically puts down the institution of marriage. And she talks about her feelings about being married and having children, and they're not positive. And I thought it's almost comical that those were some reasons why this book was so put down and scandalous in its time. This is the fictional account of Sylvia Plath traveling to New York City for a summer internship at Mademoiselle magazine. That's where our book starts. And it talks about her experiences in the city and who she met, the different people in the different women who she stayed with at the Amazon Hotel, which was modeled after the Barbizon Hotel back in its heyday. She talks about different events that they had, different things, parties she went to, talks at length about men she met. Every single character in this book you could trace back to a person in her real life, especially referring back to Red Comet. And it was like, wow, I was surprised that I wanted to look back at history to see were there any lawsuits that came from this book. And then she talks about her college career, the fact that she has to live off scholarships, and she talks about going home for the summer and her first suicide attempt as a teenager. She discusses her hospitalizations, her medications, psychiatrists, exactly word for almost by chronologically, word for word, the boyfriend, the mother. It was eerie, and I was so shocked. And Heidi and I were like, oh my gosh, it's exactly like it was in Red Comet. So the very end of the book is when she is released from one of the psychiatric hospitals and is going to go back to college. So I read this many, many years ago, and I just simply did not appreciate it because I didn't have the full background of Sylvia Plath and her real life. After having read Red Comet, this is spectacular, and I would recommend anybody to read Sylvia Plath's biography. Red Comet is huge, so I know that puts off a lot of people, but pick up a biography of her and then pick up this book. You will be amazed. It's so striking how much it matches up. So, the third book I finished, and this was my favorite for the week, this is The Murmur of Bees by, do it on this side, Sofia Segovia. This is translated from the Spanish by Simon Bruni, and Sofia Segovia is a Mexican author. This was just a beautiful book, and I gave it 4.5 stars. And the only reason it didn't get 5, it's a little long and a little redundant. And there's also a lot of telling and not showing. But I still thought the story was just beautiful. And I almost didn't care about all the faults that it had. It is her first novel that was translated in the U.S. This was published in 2015. Translated in 2019. This is the story of Simonopio, and he was an abandoned baby found under a bridge with a facial deformity and a hive of bees protecting him. And he is discovered and brought into a family that adopts him, basically. But obviously they know he's quite different than a normal little boy. He can't speak because of his physical deformity, and it sounds like he was missing part of his lips and had a cleft palate and a pretty severe cleft lip. That was never corrected because this was set in around 1918, also during the time of the Spanish flu. So there's a couple of different events that happen in the book. This is filled with magical realism, so if you're not a fan of that, you may not like it. It is fairly chunky for a novel, but I just thought the story was beautiful. The magical realism part, I was enraptured by that. And the point of the bees, the story was so climactic towards the end, so satisfying based on everything that occurs throughout the novel. She writes about Simonopio's family, his adoptive family. Each of the members have kind of their own perspective, and we get to hear the thoughts of the mom, he calls them his godmother and godfather. But Beatrice is the godmother, and there's a lot of material of her perspective. Her family, what happens during the Spanish flu, what the family has to do to survive it, what happens to their city and their town. There's mystery, there is history, there's violence and trauma and secrets, and I thought it was a beautiful story. Not perfect in its writing, but I just really loved it. So beautiful. Like I said, I felt so content when I finished the book. I would highly recommend it. It's kind of one of those books that you want to hunker down with, and that's what I wanted to do. I could never read it for long enough to make myself happy, because every time I put it down, it was probably late at night, I was too tired to continue, or I was picking up to try to read another chapter, and I felt like a little resentful when I had to put it down. So that's very revealing for that type of a book. Really enjoyed it. That was my favorite of the week. So, what am I currently reading? Let's see here. I'm going to show you. One of the books I'm currently reading is a book that I've seen so many recommendations for. I've had this on my shelf for a while. This is Jane Gardem's Old Filth. And this is a book, it's the first in a trilogy. And I don't know if I have the other titles, but I just snorted. This was published in 2004. I don't have the names of the other books in this series, but I already ordered them from Thrift Books. And I'm sure I'll have a haul somewhere down the road. But this is the story of a gentleman, Edward Feathers. And he's long past retirement. He's a widower. And this is a book that goes back in time in snapshots of his childhood. And he was a judge or a barrister, or I'm not really up to date on UK law and politics, so I think he was a judge in the UK, British judge. And his family comes from government and political posts in Southeast Asia and Hong Kong, and FILTH stands for Failed in London, Try Hong Kong. So that was an interesting thing to learn. But this, I just didn't start it. I think I'm going to be halfway through pretty soon, but I'm currently reading that. I'm also currently reading Minor Feelings, an Asian American Reckoning by Kathy Park Hong. And this one I'm almost done with, so I'll probably be done with that this weekend. And I'm listening to a book called Sitting Pretty, The View from My Ordinary Resilient Disabled Body by Rebecca Tosig. And this is her memoir of being a disabled woman. She had cancer as a baby and became paralyzed at the age of 3. So she's been disabled the vast majority of her life. And so far, it's so good just to listen to her thoughts and to hear her talk about her life and her physical acceptance and also some of her physical limitations and how she lives in the world. It's just very good. I think this is going to be one of the shortest My Bookish Weeks I've done in several weeks. So let's end it now. Let's end it now. I got to get ready and go to the grocery store. I got to get ready for the big giant storm that's going to dump 2 feet of snow on us. So write a comment down below and tell me what you thought about any of the books I mentioned, or if you've read any of them, or what you think. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.